In a world where it's hard to find real, authentic stories, we're here to share the true heart of the trucking industry and the soul of country music. We dive into life on the road and capture the essence of small town America. From the brotherhood of truckers to behind the scenes at NASCAR.
We're the last of the cowboys to giddy up gone boys. 18 wheels on the concrete, it's a slow and down breed, rolling like Jesse James.
We're going to make storytelling, industry insight, and musical highlights. This is the Road Show with Tony Justice and Friends, brought to you by our friends at Fitzgerald Truck Parts. Y'all come on, let's take a ride. When you're out here on the big road, putting in the miles, you sure don't have time to be waiting on parts, much less overpay for them. Fitzgerald's Truck Parts is your go-to for quality parts and fast service when you don't have time to wait. Knowledgeable people, fair prices, and no BS. So truck it up on over to FitzgeraldTruckParts.com and use code Tony at checkout for 10% off your order. This is just for my listeners. Fitzgerald Truck Parts. They're here to keep you moving forward. Hey everybody, this is Tony Justice, and welcome to the Road Show with Tony Justice and Friends. Man, we're super excited to have not only an awesome guest on today, but a really good friend of mine, Elvie Shane. Most of y'all know him from his hit My Boy, but his story actually starts in Caneyville, Kentucky. He's raised by a church-going mama and a truck-driving dad. From gospel music, blue-collar roots to the Nashville stage, Elvie's built a career on raw, real-life storytelling. His new album is called Damascus. This thing is off the hook, guys. It takes a deep dive into faith, redemption, and just the working-class spirit of America. Elvie, man, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on, brother.
What's up, baby? How you doing?
We are good, man. We are good. Just, kicking off on Monday. This probably isn't airing on a Monday, but we're doing it on a Monday, baby. And get to start the day off hanging out with you a little bit, man. And where are you at, brother? You up on Kentucky Lake Barkley? Where you at?
No, I'm over on Lake Cumberland. I'm at Conley Bottom Marina here in Monticello, Kentucky.
Monticello.
Yeah, we're out here staying in the camper. We left Nashville about a week ago, and we're just kind of kicking it at the camper as much as possible and trying to take some time to figure out if we want to buy a house or buy some land, or if we can buy a house or buy some land. Might be stuck in the camper for a while. You just don't never know,
Hey, those campers are cozy though, man.
I love it. We lived in this thing for 8 months a couple of years ago. I had 7 pair of underwear, 7 pair of socks, 7 t-shirts, and 1 pair of jeans, buddy. I had all I need for a week to get by.
Well, yeah, that's all you need. As long as you got a washer dryer, right?
The in-laws got one. We ain't got one.
Oh man, that's great. Elvie, you've been at it a while, brother. I know you kind of transitioning right now with some stuff, and you're moving back out of Nashville. I think you said you're talking about and getting back up toward your home, where you was raised at and things like that. Man, what's it? How's it feeling? I mean, how you feeling about it all, man? How's it going? I've been watching some of your videos, and I think it's gonna be good, dude. I'm feeling good about it.
Yeah, I think it's good. I can't say that I'm like 100% happy about the way things have went down. Just, it's just progression for the most part that's made the change for us. Nashville is a very different place than it was when I went there 10 years ago. It was still it had like a small town vibe to it. When I first got there, you would go write a song from 10, 11 o'clock in the morning to 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, then you would go down to this little bar called Losers. And my first time I went down, I went down with my buddy Matt Cooper from Monticello, Kentucky. His dad had a place down there in the Gulch, and we would go stay at his dad's condo and just go out to Losers and meet other songwriters and write songs. First 2 guys I met down there was a guy named Blue Foley and a guy named Randall Clay, R.I.P. But those guys Blue's still with us, but we lost Randall a few years back. But those guys they're like legends in the songwriter community. And, it just felt like it's a bunch of good old boys to me back then. And now the city's grown rapidly. Used to, you'd come over the hillside on 65 southbound, you'd see like 7 or 8 tall buildings. Now you see about 37 or 38,
It's like every time you drive through there trucking, it's like the skyline changes every 4 or 6 weeks. It's crazy. I wish they had set a camera up there 12 years ago somewhere, just put on that time lapse and watch that grow, man, because it's crazy, man. And I can relate. That's really kind of where I started making my connections. Was it the same place, the Losers, man? That's exactly where I just kind of stumbled into the place, met Irv and met Irv Woolsey and met Jeff Silby, through him and Randy Boudreaux. No crazy Randy, man, but what a great songwriter. He ended up producing my first album, and but that was, that place you could walk in that bar there, and you felt like you was back home at a bar back home.
Yeah, man, you could just sit there and smoke cigarettes, shoot the bull, have a cold beer. It was cool, man. I mean, I don't know. It just the place started losing its charm to me 4 or 5 years ago, and I've been around the world at this point. I'm not somebody that really hates big cities. I don't really hate LA or New York or any of that, but there's a lot of people from that area coming in, and it's kind of just naturally shifting
Yeah.
Nashville culturally kind of into those places, and some of that's good, some of it's bad, but it's still, I still feel like if you're just now coming in, it's kind of the land of opportunity, and if you're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed especially, but, I got a family and, I got wife, 2 kids. 1 kid's kinda out of the house at this point, he just graduated, but for a family of 3 or 4, you're looking at I mean, just to rent a house in the Nashville area that's big enough for a family of 3 or 4, on the low end, you're looking at, like, $2,500 a month for rent, so the money's just got a little crazy and, you know, it's like, why live like a peasant when you can live like a king for the same money in East Kentucky? So here we are in East Kentucky trying to live like a king. I feel like I'm living like a king. We ain't gotta spend near as much money, and I mean, so
Yeah.
it's
You
pretty
got a
cool.
lake right there in your back door,
Dude, I
dude.
sit out here right here where I'm sitting, me and my wife and my daughter sit here and floated until the sun set the other night, and then we got up, went up there and took a shower and ate some dinner and went to bed, so it's cool. My first record, Backslider, I had just went to Nashville from Kentucky, so Kentucky was very much in that music. And then for my second record, I was frustrated with the industry and with Nashville, and I just felt like there wasn't any music representing the real stuff that was going on in small town America and working class America. So I came back to Kentucky for 2.5 years while we worked on that project and wrote for that project. And now, I just ended up cutting my 3rd record out in North Carolina at a house in Black Mountain, North Carolina, right before we moved back to Kentucky. So Kentucky's always not very far away from where the music is coming from or going to.
Well, I mean, besides, sharing music and commonality that we have and trucking family and being around trucking, we also have that in common. But, I also spent a lot of my childhood up until my freshman year of high school. I grew up in Eastern Kentucky, over in Pike County, Elkhorn Creek, Hard Appalachian, man, and riding in that bucket with my dad for years. And so what was that like, Elby? I mean, I know you grew up in Caneyville, Kentucky. Your mama was, a church going mom. Your dad drove trucks, still drive trucks today, man. I love Scratch to death. He's crazy ass man. I love that man, and he's just kind of paint us a picture, man. What was life like, for you back then? Growing up, and how do you feel like that affected your songwriting? Kind of what got you where you are today?
I was attached to daddy's hip most of the time, so mama pulled me away from time to time to take me to church or to straighten me out when I was acting too much like him. I was either out in the driveway rolling around in the gravel working on trucks with dad or riding around with him and, his beer drinking buddies when I was a kid, back roads and stuff, hanging out with those guys. So they were all characters, man. I just remember a lot of characters growing up. Not only like daddy introduced me to those kind of characters with wild stories, always doing wild crap, but mama, she instilled like a little bit more of a calmness and a faith-based character in me and with the people that she hung out. Mama always had my mama's work ethic is unsurpassed, buddy. I ain't never met anybody. That woman, she worked a full-time she worked part-time at the post office, which was pretty much full-time. She was a sub at the post office. She delivered pizzas at night, went to college online and took care of her mama in her mama's last days so her mama wouldn't have to go to a old folks home, and she did all that until her mama passed away. She graduated with a on the dean's list, from college, I think with like a 4.0 with all A's and worked those 2 jobs. And so I don't know, man. I got maybe a lot of discipline from my mama and work ethic from my mama, also from my daddy, because daddy always had me out there working all the time. But there's a lot of Sundays spent in church, Wednesday nights, third Saturday of the month, singing hymns with mama up in, well, the second row back. But the way our church was, you had all the rows that come up from the back to the front, and then you had on the sides, you had like the deacon side over here where there was 2 rows, and then over here you had 2 rows, which was where like my mama and my granny verbal sat. And dude, we go to church on Sundays, and then I'd, sing hymns, listen, get my toes stepped on for a couple hours, and then we get home and daddy'd be outside drinking cold beer and working on some old semi truck or some old, piece of junk pickup truck he had bought or traded for and was putting a lift kit on or tinting the windows or putting speakers in it or something. So I'd go from working on my soul to working on trucks.
That's awesome, man. I remember, it's constant reminds me a lot of growing up with my mom and dad. My mom was an amazing singer, man. I mean, God, I wish I'd have got her 100% of her talent that she had to sing. I mean, Tammy Wynette, Dolly Parton, Loretta Lynn, I mean, all rolled up in one, dude. And man, she had such an anointing, dude. I mean, I remember being too little to be getting cold chills about in church. Yeah, just too small. I mean, that stuff's she, man. Anyway, super talented, super relationship with God. I mean, not. I mean, she wasn't just a believer, man. She was a follower. You know what I'm saying? And dad was, dad was dad. He was wide ass open, worked hard, played hard. And I always just remember every service, mom going, "Y'all remember Bob and your prayers, the Lord will work on the deal with him." I didn't think it went on for years, man. Her praying for dad and sneaking Bible, putting it under his mattress and the sleeper and prayer cloths, man. And she never gave up. And sure enough, I remember I heard her hollering one day, and I said, "Mom, what's the matter? What are you so excited about?" She goes, your dad comes and he gave his heart to Jesus, And I was like, "What?" I think he's out trucking. Said, "Yeah, he was listening to some Jimmy Swagger cassette that she had put in his truck, and one of those songs just touched him. It got on his heart." But anyway, that's the man. I think our lives are like mirrors, kind of almost, man. I think the way we grew up and everything, and it's cool to go connect with somebody like that because we can relate to one another. Growing up, I just kind of see, if we'd lived around each other, we'd been those two best friends that fought one day and were best friends for a week and then fought. You know what I'm saying?
Hey man, that was something about where I grew up too. If you fought with somebody, if you didn't get along with somebody, usually you just needed to throw hands a little bit and then shake hands at the end, and you'd be friends with them for the rest of your life.
Yeah, man, absolutely,
I remember me and
absolutely.
this boy PJ Sanchez. He went to grade school with me and everything. We never could get along for nothing. And finally, we was in summer school together, 6th grade, and we got all wrapped up in a fight. I got my shirt stuck over my head. My buddy Adam Lacefield came over and pulled my shirt off of me for me so I could fight. And me and PJ, we finally went at it with each other. And then after that, we was cool the rest of the time we was in school. That's just how it works. But oh man, I don't know. There was just a different code. I always tell people that where I grew up, it was like we was 10 years behind the rest of the world. And I don't know, I like that. I like that. I like going to the coffee shop on Saturday mornings with my pops and listening to all them old timers share war stories, and tell big fish tales. And I'd run across the street over to Harold Higgs's garage, and he'd always have those little cigars in his office that said "It's a boy" or whatever, And I'd get me a cigar. 7 years old, man. I thought I was big shit outside of the coffee shop just puffing on a cigar. But
You was King Tut, man.
yeah, man, it was a cool place to grow up. Mama was a singer. Daddy can sing too, but she was like your mama, man. She gave me cold chills at singing at church, and so I learned to love singing through my mama. And then daddy, we go ride around a lot back roads and stuff. And daddy always taught me to listen to what a song had to say. I mean, daddy's the kind of guy he don't even really like the music, but if, he can find the value in the lyrics. He bought a truck one time that had a Tyler the Creator CD stuck in the stereo, and it wouldn't switch off a CD player. So every time he got in his truck, he had to listen to Tyler the Creator. I thought that was so funny, which I like Tyler, the Creator, but I was like, "Daddy ain't gonna like that shit." But it wasn't long. Daddy was telling me about these Tyler, the Creator songs, and I was like, "Yeah, man, he's a pretty good artist, man. He just comes from a different place than we do." But also, people like Tyler. he's a hip hop artist, but also there's a lot of very similar struggles that I found listening to that music. You know, growing up in kind of lower middle class America, there's a lot of similar struggles in that music that I've always been able to feel like I related to. I wish that we could all see the relationship that we all have, man. It's just, it's always against the almighty dollar, man. It's just,
It is. It's crazy. It is. Well, listen, we're gonna take a short break, man, and come back. We're gonna talk about this video that I watched the other day of you full sending a pickup truck over some little pond dam.
All right.
Because that's hilarious, man. I was watching that on your YouTube or
Yeah.
somewhere, or I don't know where it's at, but anyway, that's somewhere on the phone. I laughed. But yeah, we're gonna take a few minutes, give a shout out to our sponsors. For all you guys and gals out there watching, y'all leave us a comment, man. We love to hear from you. Smash that like button, share this thing out there. We couldn't do it without all of our sponsors, of course. So we're gonna take just a minute here to let them talk about their awesome products and services. And we'll be right back. Y'all stick around. To all my brothers and sisters of the highway, if you're tired of wrestling with those tangled airlines and your power cord that run from your semi truck and connect to your trailer, then Easy Claw's got you covered. Not only does the Easy Claw system keep your lines and hoses organized, but it also keeps them from dragging and chafing, thus preventing breakdowns, expensive repairs, DOT fines, or even worse, being shut down by our good buddies down there at the chicken coop. So let's be less stressed, safer, and compliant, y'all, by checking out my friends at EasyClaw.com. For over 20 years, my buddy Clifton with Crossroads Towing and Truck Repair has proudly served the trucking industry with reliable, family-owned service. Available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to get you moving again, safe and sound. Just call 270-773-4000 and tell them Tony sent you. Hey, everybody. Diesel Pride believes the best way to respect all of us American truckers is to showcase everyday road trucks on their shirts. I love mine. Visit dieselpride.rocks for the best trucker apparel. Tell them I sent you. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Road Show. I'm hanging out with my good buddy Elvie Shane today. He's making me a little bit jealous with that lake in the background back there. I'm ready to go fishing now. I'm like, man, look at that. I guarantee you, midsummer, we're a little bit past midsummer now, but you could go take and flip those docks. You could flip a little finesse worm between them boat docks and those walkways on that boat dock back there and catch some spots. It's a pretty good spot.
There's a little bit of good fishing. Like I said, I ain't much of a fisherman. It takes a lot of patience, and that's a virtue I've never been graced with. But one time I was out here, a lot of people use a light, drop a light down in the water. One time we was fishing, and there wasn't no light up on the dock, or it was just kind of dim lit. But there was, we had the light down in the water, and I thought I caught me a big old bass. I pulled that sucker up on the dock, and he was flopping around on the dock, and I reached down to lip him, and this dude came out of nowhere and just slapped the shit out of me. I said, "What's your problem?" He said, "Don't grab that fish like that, man." He turned his flashlight on, shined it. It was a walleye, and I about lipped a walleye. I about lost my thumb.
Yeah, they got teeth like a darn house cat, man, and walleye do. Shoot.
About lost my hand to a barracuda one time in Texas. We went out there with a buddy of mine out of Rockport, Texas, and went like 50 miles off the coast. Went out there. It's the only time I've ever been out that far, and done any fishing in the Gulf. And I caught a barracuda. And I reckon when you grab a barracuda, you're supposed to grab their gills and make a fist. Well, I didn't know that, and I just grabbed it from behind the gill with my hand like this, and my hand came up about out of its mouth. Well, I about looked down right at the right time and seen this thing open his mouth, and he was about to chomp down. I just threw that barracuda in the floor of that boat, and everybody was scurrying, took off running. That barracuda's flopping around, chomping his jaws. That guy looked at me, he said, "Buddy, you about lost your hand." But you was talking about the pond jump story a while ago. I'll share it with you. It's one of my favorite stories of my childhood. So I came home from church on Sunday afternoon with Mama, and Daddy had bought this old, I think it's like a 86 model Ford F-150 four-wheel drive pickup truck. Had old 300 inline six in it and 4-speed Bulldog. And when I got there, he was out there working on it. He was putting a body lift on it, little 3-inch body spacers. He said, "Hey, I need you to come out here and help me with something," which is usually what I heard as soon as I got home from church. And so I went in and made me a, bologna sandwich, and then came back outside, and we finished putting that body lift on that thing. At the time, my aunt was married to this fella that had a farm right down the road from us, so we loaded up, the cooler with some beer, put it in the back of Daddy's truck. It had a sliding glass window so he could reach back there in his cooler, and he just kept it bungee corded to the front of the bed so he could reach it all the time. But we went out there, and that's how I would learn to drive. He'd take me out in these fields down the road and just like, put me to it. Well, on the backside of this farm, there's a place where you there's a hill right here, and then there's a valley, and then there's a hill right here. Well, this hill just dips directly into a pond. So we're sitting on this hill over here, and I'm staring across the valley at the pond bank. And I looked at Daddy. I said, "Man, I want to ramp that pond bank." He said, "Well, kick her in the ass, son." So we get through the gears. We hit that hill probably in third gear, man. And then all of a sudden, all I could see was just blue. We're looking at the sky, and I'm looking over at Daddy, and he's starting to come up out of his seat. And then all of a sudden, I see horizon, and then Daddy's flying forward, and he's got his beer in his hand. And then all of a sudden, I see ground, and we just nosedived into the middle of this dry pond. Daddy flies forward, he ends up in a dash, all twisted up. The 22 rifles come off the gun rack and hit him in the head and cut a big gash in his temple. That truck sits there, teeters for a second, falls down on its tires, and we bounce around. I looked at Dad and I said, "We got some serious air, man." And he grabbed his beer. He said, "I never spilt a drop." Takes me a drink.
Hey, that's fantastic. So many many similarities of stories my dad could tell, stories like that, and stuff I remember from my dad. Man, my dad used to have one of the nicest K5 Blazers. He bought a brand new back in, I don't know, 78, maybe 77, 80, right in that era. I was probably 11-year-old, 12. But anyway, him and his buddy. I remember had a buddy that trained horses. I can't remember. He drove trucks too, but he trained horses on the side. And him and Brass Monkey was one of them's handle, and the other one's handle was Yankee Doodle or something like that. Anyway, brand new K5, and it comes the snow. They're drinking, they're hanging out, doing what our dads did back in. They take off, go play in the snow. Now, like I do in my Silverado now, when it snows, man, you got to go play in the snow. See if you can find somebody stuck that needs pulled out, right? Anyway, they end up totaling that damn thing. They come up on the mountains. You know how East Kentucky, you're either at the top of the mountain or bottom of the mountain or somewhere in between. And they come around just a dead right hand curve, and they're going way too fast. They just went straight, just sailed that cape. But anyway, man, just great stories, dude. And like you, I wouldn't trade my childhood, man, for nothing. The way we grew up, I didn't know, we didn't have. I'd say we was probably considered poor, but man, we didn't know it, dude. We were the last people knew we were poor.
I didn't know we was poor till I got to middle school and met kids with Abercrombie and Fitz jeans. I thought rustlers was all they made. I mean, dude, we were all right. Mama and Daddy both worked hard, and we didn't have everything we wanted, but we had everything we needed. We had a lot of things that we wanted too. Usually I was kind of left up to my own, devices to figure things out. If I wanted a four-wheeler, I need to figure out how to trade for one or make money to buy one or something like that. And I'd go buy me a $300 four-wheeler instead of a $3,000 one. But, I learned at a young age to just, if you want something, figure out a way to get it. And I think that's kind of fed over into the music industry and everything. It's like, I don't never look at, if I get an idea, I don't know how to get there or get it, but I just start moving in that direction. And, usually I figure out a way to get there or get it, so.
Yeah. Well, man, growing up the way you did, and us talking about that and the trucking, both of us being around trucking, obviously, working class, blue collar families. I know you've got a huge respect for the working crowd out there, especially the truckers. Your song Miles is a tribute you wrote to your dad. Tell us a little bit about that and how the road shaped who you are, and being around that trucking side of the world.
The longest friend and foe I've had in my life. I've got 65 tattooed on my arm here, and it used to say KYTN because most of my life has been split between Kentucky and Tennessee. Since I graduated high school, I've moved back and forth between Kentucky and Tennessee probably 10 times. But I kind of cut my teeth in the passenger seat of old Kenworth or Peterbilt, riding around with Daddy, listening to John Fogerty and Steve Earle. And for a long time, would go with Daddy and ride with him. I got my handle being out on the road with my daddy one weekend. They call me Droopy Drawers on the radio. He was hauling fertilizer, and I went in there in the fertilizer bins and started grabbing handfuls of fertilizer and basically made dynamite in my pocket, And I come in the office there and I had my pants down around my ankles, and the old lady working behind the counter, she said, "Well, what's going on, Droopy Drawers?" And my legs were just on fire, So there's a lot of good, lot of good, bad memories when I was a kid. But then when I graduated high school, I moved down to Red Bull in Springs, Tennessee, and started working for the pastor of my old home church. I was working on the road doing mobile home warranty work. So spent a lot of time running back and forth to Alabama and East Tennessee, hauling mobile home parts and going out with those contractors and working on that stuff. And then, drove a truck a little bit doing farm work, hauled a little grain, hauled chicken shit, cleaned out chicken houses. And then from there, doing road construction, pipeline construction, all that stuff. So the road's just always been, I don't know, it's always been present in my life. And then, of course, from there, going out on the road doing music, I just feel like I've spent 3/4 of my life out there. I love it. But also, when you love the road, you got to realize you sacrifice so much time. And I feel like that's how I relate to a lot of people doing what I do, and how I kind of am still able to tap into that. I go out on the road. There's so many people where I come from, where you come from. There's not usually a lot of opportunity around there. So you got to go out and find work where it can be found. So you got all these guys that go out and do scale work and, construction and living in hotels, truck drivers, everything. So, I just I still feel that, when I'm out here away from my wife and my kids and just trying to make a buck. And a lot of people, if you get on Google and look, it'll tell you I'm worth $2 or $3 million. I'd like to know where the hell it's at. We're still out here, making blue collar money, and which ain't always bad money, you know what I'm saying? But it's a struggle, man. And it's like you either love the road or you don't, And if you don't love the road, then you sure as hell can't be out there on it. And I don't know. I'm trying these days. I'm just trying to find the balance, work as much as possible to take care of the family, but also like not miss too much.
Yeah, it's a juggling. It's a pretty demanding juggling routine too, to try to do both. And I did it. I did it for a lot of years. The music, the trucking was full time. Misty waited tables at the Cracker Barrel. We were doing this music stuff on the weekends. I had a great boss that would, that find me a load going to a truck show somewhere, and unload there on Thursday or Wednesday, somewhere Thursday morning, go get the truck washed up. And I'd be within, like 100, 150 miles away where I unloaded at from the truck show. And then, get unloaded. We couldn't lay down to sleep in it because the sleeper was packed with my guitar and, t-shirts. And we'd take some chairs and, man, it was packed full of some merchandise. And we finally get to the show and try to unload all that shit outside of a little 379 Peterbilt door, unloading that stuff, and then spend 3 days doing the show. So setting up, play show, we bring the boards in on a sprinter or fly them in, and different, maybe how we can get it figured out, And
I was talking to Bob Vogel. He was talking about a show for a buddy or something, and he said something about, and I said, yeah, it feels weird to call people and charge them money for a show, because to me, I'm still just playing music and I'm having fun, and he said, what a lot of people don't realize, and I appreciate this about him. He said, well, I ain't paying you to play the show. I'm paying you to load up, drive up here, sit around and wait, and then load up and drive back home. And I said, well, I'm glad somebody finally understands,
Yeah, he gets it, man. Well, listen, we're going to take one more short break, let our sponsors get a word in. You guys, man, we appreciate y'all tuning in. Leave us a comment, man. We'll jump, we're going to circle back on YouTube. We'll answer questions, whatever you want to ask us, man, or ask Elvie. We appreciate y'all tuning in. Please hit that share button and the like button, and tell your friends about us. Till then, we're going to let our sponsors holler at you. We'll be back just in a second. Y'all stick around. Too many drivers are being hurt on the job. That's why the OnLift system by my friends over at Patriot Lift is a total game changer. It's 100% operated by air. You just hit a button and you're dropping or hooking your trailer in a matter of seconds. No more straining on that crank handle. No more injuries and no more missed work. Maybe you run a fleet of trucks, and so you're looking at potentially saving thousands of dollars on workman's comp and injury claims. Listen up. Right now, you can get your on-lift system by Patriot Lift for $900 off the regular price by using discount code TJ2025. Take care of your body and your rig and get yourself an on-lift by Patriot Lift. And hey, it's made right here in the good old USA. My good friend Jay and his team at Pride Truck Wash know that truck drivers are the heartbeat of America and its economy. At Pride Truck Wash, their mission is to help those hardworking people do their job in a clean truck. Stop in at a Pride Truck Wash and experience the difference. To learn more, visit pridetruckwash.com. You guys know that I've trusted House products for years, and so should you. For me, it's Diesel Treat for winter, Diesel Lifeline for emergencies, their Diesel Defender for warm weather, and House Multi-Purpose for just about everything else. Visit House products today. As truckers, we drive more miles than anyone else on the highway. As a result, we're at a higher risk of being involved in an accident. If you've been hurt in a wreck, let my good friends at Terry Law Firm help. They know trucks and how to handle truck wreck cases. Reach out to the Terry Law Firm on the web at terry-lawfirm.com. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Road Show. We're hanging out with my good buddy, Elvie Shane. And Elvie, I think we got another show together this year. Are you still booked up there at Mitchell's up there at Bayberry Truck Show?
Yeah, October 4th, I believe.
Yeah, it's always a good time, man. I always enjoy getting a chance to hang out with you and your dad. He usually comes over and hangs out on the bus with us a lot. And that guy just has a good time. I love your dad to death, man. We'll get on the phone talking, and he swears up and down that he used to run with my dad, because he used to run over in the Eastern Kentucky area some. Your dad did, and he'd run with all them old coal haulers and stuff over on 23 over there, between Pike County and Ashland, Kentucky. And man, he's a good guy. And
Daddy's a character. I wouldn't be able to tell half the stories the way I do if it wasn't for growing up around him. Daddy's I believe Daddy's an artist, and his the way that he puts trucks together and the vision that he sees for these trucks and the chaotic way that he decorates, his shop that he works in and stuff. You just anywhere you walk where Dad spends time, you can see, parts of my dad on the walls or on the dash or whatever. So
there's a rhyme and a reason for everything he does, whether you know what that rhyme and reason is or not. That's
I
another
heard
story.
that.
But he reminds me a lot of my dad too, man. He takes so much pride in that truck, and he just jump under the truck and jerk the transmission out. I mean, you can tell he loves it, man. My dad was like that. My dad worked as a butt off, man, around the clock, 7 days a week. He loved to work.
My daddy's always been good at turning an old sow's ear into a silk purse. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. We used to work a lot on old hot rods, back when we was racing dirt track and stuff. And, we'd have a case of beer, me and another buddy or two buddies of mine working on them cars. And it's fun, but man, the way that your dad works, he's old school. He broke down the side of the road. He knows how to fix his own stuff. It's got to be something really bad if he gets towed, because he's just going to jump in there. He's got, keeps the tools in his truck, and ain't too much he can't fix right there on the shoulder, and I'm that way to an extent, but your dad's like my dad.
Brother, I'm glad I got it from him. There, with a pair of pliers and baling wire, there ain't much that I can't fix, So I learned all that rolling around that gravel with him for so many years.
Your mama being in church the way she was, and your dad kind of out here living the life, like I said, it's like looking in the mirror hearing your story about my mom and dad. But so you grew up, but maybe I don't know, man, like the angel on one side, the devil on the other, a little bit.
Oh, for sure, man. Yeah, it's still there. It's still it's an everyday battle.
Yeah, man, it never ends. I'll tell you that. And talking about that, and you always kind of said you've had this relatability to this backslider identity. You've called yourself a backslider, someone who's made mistakes, but you've owned up to them. How has that shaped your music and the way you write songs, Elvie, you think?
Well, it's kind of like, to me, if I'm sitting in a pew on Sunday getting my toes stepped on by a preacher, I would much rather that preacher have been there, done that, and know both sides of the story, as to listen to a preacher that's only ever been a saint his whole life, and it's kind of the same with me with writing these stories. And I always try to comb God's hair a little bit. There's always a song or something that comes from the Bible that is associated with any project I put out. Backslider, I had just kind of finished that record and reached out to an old preacher buddy of mine that I hadn't talked to in quite a while over Facebook, and was just saying hi and, hope they were doing well and everything. And I didn't have a title for that first record, and I got a message back from them. They was kind of just scolding me about where I was at and what I was doing with my talent and all this stuff. And I just messaged them back and said, hell, what a backslider I am. God forbid I put a song out about loving my stepson and telling the truth about where I come from and the other ones and all that stuff. That song ended up touching so many people, and I was like, I feel like God worked through me in spite of me with that first record. Yeah, I don't know, man. I just feel like I'm just human, and a backslider to me is just another word for just being human, man. It's like I can't just go out here and be perfect all the time. I'm gonna make mistakes. I'm gonna disappoint people. I'm gonna disappoint myself. I try like hell to, there's things that I've swore off in my life. I fight those things, tooth and nail anytime I'm tempted by them these days. I can't say that I'll never make mistakes again, but I just. Also, I told somebody the other day, I said, thank God I've been so dumb. Because if I hadn't been half as dumb as I was, then I wouldn't have half the stories I got, you know what I mean? So, I don't know. I just I every minute, every hour, every day, every week is a new chance to start over and do better, and really you ain't gotta worry about doing better for nobody but yourself. You need to meet your own expectations. I believe that God puts in our hearts, in our minds, what the best version of us is, and I believe that we try to strive for that. Also, He just made me the way I am too, and all the best parts of the way I am, and that's just an ongoing battle that you got to fight, like you said, for the rest of your life. Is we are presented with decisions on a daily basis, and you just try to make the right ones.
That's right, buddy. Well, listen, what's next for Elvie Shane? What's coming up next that you're excited about? Where can people find you? How can they stay in touch? Keep up with what you got going on, buy your album and all that good job.
Well, if you want to buy my album, I would greatly appreciate that. You can go want to buy the album on Apple Music. There might be some CDs still left out there somewhere in the Walmarts and stuff like that. But other than that, you can go listen to it also, everywhere where music is stolen. You can go out there and listen to it on any app out there. Follow me on anything, social media related at Elvie Shane Music. I believe that's just about every one of them's at Elvie Shane Music. It should have a blue check beside it. There's a lot of people out there acting like they're me, from week to week. And I'm sorry, but I quit telling people to not accept money requests and stuff from those, because I feel like at this point in time, we ought to be smart enough to know, not to do that. But I'm never going to ask anybody for money. About 3 weeks ago, I loaded up a trailer full of studio equipment and a few cars full of my closest friends and collaborators. We rented a house in North Carolina, Black Mountain, North Carolina. We drove up there and turned that house into a studio and spent 8 days up there writing and recording and a new record. And Backslider was very much a nostalgic record. It was like where I come from, what made me who I am, and how I got to Nashville. Damascus had a lot of teeth, and it bared its teeth a lot. I was frustrated about a lot of things with the way I was seeing working class America being treated. I was seeing myself being treated in the music industry. So that record was a reflection of that. But this record, man, I just love it. It just feels like we're having fun. It sounds like 10 best friends hanging out in a house in the mountains, just doing whatever they want to do. I think it's going to be, could quite possibly be the best record, best performing record that we've ever done.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And thank all you guys for tuning in for another episode of The Road Show with Tony Justice and Friends. We can't do none of this without God and you all. You're very well, very much appreciated. Thanks again and for tuning in. Till I see you again, as always, God bless and speed safely. Hey guys, thanks for tuning into The Road Show with Tony Justice and Friends, brought to you by our great friends over at Fitzgerald's Truck Park. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review. Also, follow us on my social media for more updates and behind the scenes content. Until next time, God bless, and as always, speed safely.